Stop parental alienation, emotional abuse. For this presentation, I will concentrate on the fact that the children are abused through parental alienation, and many for life, unknowingly will have their lives negatively affected by it, and some will even recreate and become a parental alienator themselves. The emotional abuse of a child is the systematic emotional or psychological ill treatment of a child as part of the overall relationship between a caregiver and a child. That is the TUSLA definition. Emotional abuse continued. Rejection, persistent criticism, sarcasm, blaming, hostility on child, a continuous lack of praise and encouragement, seriously inappropriate expectations of a child relative to the child's stage of development. Emotional abuse, lack of attachment, extreme overprotectiveness, inappropriate non-physical punishment, ongoing family conflicts and family violence. Emotional abuse. These are some of the emotional abuse factors that are undertaken in child abuse, and they all fit within parental alienation behaviours. Continuous lack of praise and encouragement. Rejection. Persistent criticism. Sarcasm. Blaming. Hostility on child. Seriously inappropriate expectations of a child relative to the child's stage of development. Parental alienation is emotional abuse. Parental alienation is a systematic, emotional, or psychological ill treatment of a child as part of the overall relationship between a caregiver and a child. Parental alienation can involve lack of attachment, extreme overprotectiveness, inappropriate non-physical punishment, ongoing family conflicts, and family violence. Parental alienation often involves rejection, continuous lack of praise and encouragement, persistent criticism, sarcasm, blaming, hostility, and seriously inappropriate expectations relative to the stage of the development of the child. Yet TUSLA, the Gardaí, COSC, Women's Aid, etc., do not recognise, address, prosecute for parental alienation or support the victims of parental alienation, being the children themselves and the parents. The alienated child. The severe effects of parental alienation on children are well documented and mean a higher risk of losing the capacity to give and accept love from a parent, lack of trust, depression rooted in feelings of being unloved by one of their parents, internalizing the hatred targeted towards the alienated parent, an increased risk of substance abuse and other forms of addiction. The alienated child experiencing severe guilt related to betraying the targeted parent, missing the opportunity to mourn the loss of the targeted parent or talk about them, having conflicted or distant relationships with alienating parent, low self-esteem and self-hatred, and ultimately alienation with their own children.
Experience an extensive list of severe emotional and psychological feelings, emotions, and traumas. Sometimes become scapegoated children and may suffer chronic insecurity in relationships due to emotional betrayal. Expend a lot of time and energy pleasing the alienator, whilst their emotional well-being can be completely forgotten. Will repress positive memories of the target parent as it hurts too much to think, feel, or speak about them, as it could enrage the alienated parent. Experience most or all of the 8 rules of dysfunctional families. Experience ongoing conflict and volatility which does serious harm to them. Become wounded children and often become the target of their own rage.
This is a very short list of negative effects that parental alienation has on the targeted parent. Sadly and ever so tragically, many can be so terrible that the option of suicide or addiction is taken to numb the emotional or other pains that the alienated parent may feel. So the targeted parent effects are a broken relationship with the child or young adult that may never be fully repaired if ever. Financial and societal effects of court, false allegations, accusations of being a bad mum or a bad dad, negative mental and emotional health effects caused by the parental alienation, negative effects on the extended family towards the alienated parent, more effects on the targeted parent, debilitating effects of not being able to rescue the children from serious emotional abuse, enduring false claims of neglect, abuse, and in some cases character assassination, enduring abuse, allegations being thrown at their family of origin, experience abuse, trauma, PTSD, and torture at the hands of the parental alienator, allegations about things without ever being told of them and denied the opportunity to defend, denied the opportunity to provide safety, security, guidance, closeness, and love to their children. More effects on the targeted parent. They're traumatized because they are denied the opportunity to protect their children from a range of serious consequences which children have an increased exposure to, such as homelessness and suicide, etc. They can end up with criminal records as part of the trauma, torture, and sense of being overwhelmed by the system. They experience an overwhelming abuse while simply trying to remain being a parent. The ideation of suicide due to the powerlessness, the loss of hope, and the loss of fundamentally having the important role of being a parent in their own life.
Targeted parent and suicide risks. Main factors that make someone more vulnerable to suicide are family breakdown, social inclusion and social exclusion, drug and alcohol misuse, unemployment, poverty, poor social conditions, imprisonment, violence.
Targeted parent and mental health. It is regular for alienated parents to experience several of these suicide risk factors. Unfortunately, both alienated parents and children can sometimes succumb to suicide and self harm, go on to depressive or addictive behaviours as a result of the consequences of being alienated. There are no statistics collected by the Irish Institute of Suicidology or any government department for this extremely vulnerable group of citizens. Emotional abuse within domestic abuse regarding parental alienation. Controlling the children is used as a very highly effective means of establishing a power imbalance within a relationship. Parental alienation is often unseen or intangible to those outside the relationship. Emotional abuse is as harmful as physical violence. Yet TUSLA and Women's Aid reject and ignore mothers and fathers who complain about this emotional abuse on their children. This is child abuse. This is another short list of how an alienating parent may have no regrets and feel self delusional in their actions and behaviours. The alienating parent, unpunished, usually gets away scot free, considered a good parent, has superficially loving but controlled child, self righteousness is confirmed, and gains severe satisfaction from their behaviour. Hate. Alienated parents and extended families regularly experience feelings of hatred being directed at them, along with contempt, humiliation, verbal, emotional, psychological, and physical abuse by the alienating parents and or alienated children and young adults. Parental alienation is not parental estrangement. Where there is justified estrangement by a father or mother because of child abuse or neglect, this is parental estrangement and is not parental alienation. Often people mistake parental alienation for parental estrangement, which is a totally different issue completely. In this diagram, it shows some subtle methods of how parental alienation brainwashes a child against her or his other parent. It is, as the title suggests, a form of psychological warfare that we will see in the following slides. The destruction of the parent child relationship through psychological warfare, limiting contact, keeping a child from the other parent, not informing the other parent about important information, brainwashing a child, erasing the other parent from the child's life, manipulating a child's feelings or bribing them in order to interfere with the other parent's relationship, talking badly about the other parent in front of the child, not allowing a child to speak freely or express love for their other parent, making a child choose sides or who to love, forcing a child to reject or hate the other parent, making a child fearful of their other parent, making a child feel guilty for loving their parent or wanting to spend time with them. This is child abuse.